Welcome to this crash course in the Italian wine region of Molise. You're going to learn exactly what makes Molise a unique wine producing region, what types of Molise wines are out there, and where you should begin your journey in tasting these wines. I'm Tony Margiata. I'm a wine importer and author of Hidden Gems of Italy. My life's mission is to look for world-class artisanal wines handcrafted in small batches in Italy, many of which have been overlooked and undervalued. My family's from a small village in the Molise region of southern Italy, and I've been traveling to Italy for over 20 years, immersing myself in Italian food, wine, and culture. So where is Molise? Well, as you can see on the map, it's a tiny little region in purple. Notice the arrow. Molise happens to be the second smallest region in Italy after Valle d'Aosta in the north. You can see that's also purple up here. Second smallest region. I call Molise the crossroads of the south for this reason. If you notice, it's bordering on 4 different southern Italian regions. It borders with Abruzzo, with Lazio, Campania, and also Puglia in the south. So it makes it sort of, its location is particularly unique. What else makes Molise unique? Well, if you look in the pictures here, Molise has one of the oldest records of human history. In the photo on the left, you'll see remnants of the most ancient site where traces of fire by humans have been found. This goes back to the Paleolithic age. Fascinating place to visit if you ever go to Molise. Molise is also the home of the Samnites. In Italian, they were called Saniti. They were eventually conquered by the Romans and disappeared as a distinct people back in 308 BC. And this happened in Molise. The final battles between the Romans and the Samnites happened on the land of Molise. So what's interesting is that after they completely conquered the Samnites, Rome, they began their gladiator contests 40 years later. And guess what the Romans called the gladiators? The Samnites. Or vice versa, actually. They called the Samnites gladiators. So if you ever wonder where the word gladiator came from, it's because they're talking about the Samnites, who were very, very tough people. They were very tough to conquer. Eventually Rome did, as they did just about anybody else. But they were tough. They took their armory and they brought it back to Rome, and they dressed the gladiators up with this armory. So sort of interesting that the term gladiator really comes from the region of Molise. Molise also happens to be a very underdeveloped region, and its economic struggles can be traced back to the World Wars. It's mostly a mountainous and hilly region. Winemaking historically has been made for local consumption only, but what's happening now is that more and more winemakers are going back to some of the abandoned vineyards in Molise to unearth what I believe is greatness buried under these unique soils. For wine lovers who are more interested in quality and originality, I definitely would recommend you take a look at some wines from Molise. If you like rooting for the underdog, I can't think of a better underdog in the Italian wine world than Molise. So how should you think about Molise wines? Just like any other region. Think about the native grape varietals and, of course, the subregions or appellations. Now here is some of the varietals that Molise cultivates. For the whites, there's Trebbiano, Falanghina, Pecorino, and Malvasia. Now, you may have noticed if you've seen any of my other videos, Trebbiano is found in multiple wine regions from North Italy to South Italy. It's particularly well known in the Abruzzo region. But Abruzzo, like I said, Molise is the crossroads of the South. Molise is attached to Abruzzo, and in fact, up until the 1960s or 70s, I believe, Abruzzo and Molise were attached. They were the same region. It was one region. So they also share the Trebbiano traditions. Then, of course, a little bit lesser known, Falanghina, which is more famous in Campania. They say its spiritual home is in the region of Campania. And in fact, it's true. Some of the first Falanghina wines that I discovered were when I went to Naples. But then I discovered, being in Molise, my family's from Molise. I also was noticing Falanghina wines there, and actually they're really quite spectacular. If you like Falanghina or you want to explore Falanghina, I highly recommend something from Molise. Pecorino is another white grape that is shared amongst a couple other regions, like Abruzzo makes a lot of Pecorino. They might be the biggest producer of Pecorino, but also Marche. Marche actually has a DOCG of Pecorino, another white grape. And of course, Malvasia, which is found all over Italy. You should definitely check out the Malvasia wines from Molise. They're also very aromatic. But all of these white wines are typically made in dry form. Very, very great wines to be eaten with food or to start off the evening as an aperitivo. On the reds, you have Tintilia, which is the most authentic, most indigenous varietal of Molise, because you cannot find this grape in anywhere else in Italy or the world for that matter. Then you have Aglianico, which is found in numerous regions in the south. In fact, it's grown all over the south. That between that grape and Primitivo and Montepulciano, those are the most produced red grapes. But the Aglianico wines are particularly delicious in Molise, and they don't get any credit for it. And then, of course, there's plenty of Montepulciano to go around. So if you like Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, definitely check out the Montepulciano from Molise. Also very, very good wines. And, since most of these wines should be somewhat easy to find, Molise is a little bit tougher to find Molise wines abroad, but they can be found. And I just want to reiterate that if you taste one, don't put a check mark and say, oh, I tasted it and I'm done, I'll move on to the next thing. Make sure that you try to find artisanal versions of these wines that are produced at 50,000 bottles a year or less. Really, that's where the difference separates between quality, authenticity from the artisanal side, and then sort of the mass industrial replicating of popular flavors from the mass-produced world. Here's a map of the appellations in Molise. Very, very easy. They have 4 appellations, a little bit less than Basilicata. If you've seen my video on Basilicata, they have 5 appellations. Molise only has 4, and I'm going to give you 4 of them right now. That's Tintilia del Molise, DOC. That's an awesome, awesome wine. It's full-bodied, dark fruits, spices, minerality. It's an extremely complex wine. Aglianico del Molise, you should definitely check out. If you've already had Aglianico wines from Campania, you definitely got to check out the Aglianico from Molise. They're a little bit easier drinking at earlier ages compared to the Campania versions. And then there's a red and white wine from an appellation called Biferno DOC. Biferno is a very interesting traditional blend of only 2 varietals, 80% Montepulciano and 20% Aglianico. This is a very interesting blend that you're not going to find anywhere else in Italy, and that's because of this crossroads of the South, which I've mentioned a couple of times earlier. So what's the first white wine you should try? Definitely check out the Biferno Bianco DOC. That's typically also a blend of 2 different white varietals, traditionally Trebbiano and Malvasia. These tend to be very aromatic wines because of the Malvasia, but the Trebbiano also brings some very nice crispy acidity to the wines that will sort of, after you swallow the wine, it almost makes you a little thirsty to go back for the next sip, which is always fun. And of course, the first red wine you should try, if you can find it, is the Tintilia del Molise, DOC, the Tintilia. Definitely check that out first. And that's it for Molise. So make sure you subscribe to Gladiator Wine TV so you don't miss out on other new videos about artisanal Italian wine and Italian wine education and more. Remember, great wines are not made in great numbers.